My name is Peyton Wilson. I'm a second-year law student at the University of Kentucky College of Law. An area of interest of mine includes aerospace law. Roughly 6-7 months ago, I founded Aurora Incorporated. I was sitting in a property class one day when we read an article. It just kind of, opened my eyes to the possibilities that are drones and the positive economic impacts that they can have. This technology can benefit a lot of people in the very near future. All of that to say, my background is more on the legal side than the piloting side. That is to say, I would be candid about this. I'm not the best pilot that has worked with Aurora Incorporated. They don't actually offer any classes in aerospace law at UK that I know of. I've looked a few times. However, I would venture to say that the University of Kentucky is the best value for a law school that you can find. On September 5th, during the flight operations, which were recreational in nature, I was flying the drone, and the connection between my controller, very similar to like an Xbox controller, and the drone was severed. Bear in mind that the drone is certified, or at least licensed, but it is definitely registered with the FCC to avoid communication interruptions. Being that it was in proximity to a large amount of cell phones, if I were to speculate, is that somehow the connection was severed due to cell phone interference from the people that were there and the distance between the controller and the drone itself. The drone that I was operating on that day actually has a return to home function. The takeoff point is set as a home point, or when the connection is severed between the remote control and the drone itself. The drone will actually go to a predetermined altitude and return back to the spot that it took off and actually land itself. I pre-programmed the altitude to 250 feet. I estimated that would be an adequate altitude, which in retrospect it was determined it was an adequate altitude for the return home feature to kick in. That pre-programmed altitude did not kick in, and it went to an unspecified altitude, the exact altitude that it contacted the wall at. I actually was not aware of the crash until I approached the nearest police officer. So, from my perspective, I lost contact with the drone. When that happens from your controller, all you see is basically a blank screen. It turns black when you would have otherwise had a camera feed. A few minutes went by, and I realized that there are two possibilities. Either the drone is awkwardly hovering, or it had likely crash landed. My immediate concern was to make sure no one was injured. I never wished to ever put anyone in danger. Being unsure of whether or not everyone was okay, I walked to the nearest police officer that I could find. Proceeded to identify myself. The first question I asked him is, hey, I was operating the drone, is everyone okay? He radioed to some other officers and affirmed that no one was injured, no property was damaged, and that they had the drone. The most important thing that any drone operator can do is, or anyone in general, is to be accountable for their actions. So that was the initiation of that process, was to communicate with law enforcement authorities at that time. Every day you walk out your door and you make decisions. Those decisions inherently carry risks which involve, to some degree, legal ramifications. People generally should not be afraid of legal ramifications or legal implications in their daily lives. What I was doing, to me, is no different than when folks go and hop in their car and drive down the street. Although drones may be a little bit more nuanced than the communication technology which we all use in smartphones, I do think that they will become commonplace in the relevant future. Was I thinking about legal ramifications in the moment? No, I didn't intend to crash the drone. That was in my mind, a manufacturer defect in the device that I was operating. First, the investigation should always be turned over to the FAA. I think that that's the right entity to determine what to do. I think that the charge of wanton endangerment was a little overzealous, to say the least. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter now, because the precedent was set. What I did on that day was, and forever will be, criminal trespass, which isn't a misdemeanor. Just in case everyone is wondering, that's a violation. It's similar to a parking ticket, which means I didn't have permission to land my drone where I did. And that is a huge precedent going forward, so that drone operators out there know that if they don't have permission and they do land on a person's property, that is what you can expect, not wanton endangerment. Now, that is to say, drones still, when used in a reckless fashion, can injure people. Anything can be used in a reckless or dangerous fashion. But that being said, drones follow the same rules of common sense as most of our consumer products we have in our homes today.